In a world where insanity reigns supreme and safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know an ancient, fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. And despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to revoke his shameless contract, we return to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Tomo, you magnificent bastard, I read your book.
I drink your milkshake.
How dare you?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch.
Captain.
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 No, not yet. Not yet. Don't pass out on me yet. Of course you realize this means war.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Feel like Lurch. Where's Thing? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I'm broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, always spelled with a K, a mere 2 miles east of the locus of evil on the entire left coast of the Bill Mill. The Belly of the Beast, the Capitol building in downtown Sacramento at 10th and L Streets. And at the end of the show, when I exit the plush, resplendent, sumptuous, and palatial SHR Media studios, I'll be smelling the odoriferous stench of sulfur, brimstone, and evil emanating from downtown Sacramento. Remember, what you're about to hear for the next 2 hours consists of my opinion and nobody else's. The Saloon is serving stiff drinks, facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, intent, and common sense out the front and back doors, depending on the fear porn quotient. Remember, we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the Saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze is not. This is 2022, and I am done with bipartisanship and compromise. And understand, I'm also done with the Republican Party. 2021 is going to be the year of retribution, revenge, and punishment of conservatives by Democrats. Make no mistake about that. Every show, I tell you, I've got a lot of stuff for you to hear, read, see. And of course, this show is no different. This time I have... It should not surprise you to know that I have 3 separate search engines all set up. Each search engine has probably 20 to 25 tabs in each one for potential stories. That makes 75 tabs. My computer is starting to... It's at the periphery of... No more, give us no more tabs. That's too much, no more. And before we get into the show, I want to remind you of four things. I'm going to be having, and I think I wrote this down in the chat room. Yes, I did. This Thursday night, I wrote Tuesday night, but I meant Thursday night. This Thursday night, I'm going to have Jan Rogers on of Dream Makers for Life. I thieved her from Jeremy Hansen because she has a great story to tell, and she's going to talk about how her organization brightens the lives of children suffering various diseases and ailments. That's going to be a great show. She'll be here Thursday night. The second, I want to remind you that this show, I still don't understand how the hell it happened. I am listed as number 18 of the top 75 late-night talk show podcasts you must follow in 2021. That's from blogfeedspot.com. Seth Meyers is number 1. BZ is number 18. I hope with a bullet, perhaps not. Anyway, I want to get to some thanks. Before I do that, though, some housekeeping hints and tips. Number 1 is in the SHR Media chat room. Welcome to Mike for being in chat. Thank you, Mike, for being in chat. Kate for being in chat. Sergeant Booker, the Alaskan, and Simone. Thank you all for being in chat. And that is part and parcel. Let me look up on Facebook chat because this is the one that really doesn't allow me to see much of anything. And when I look in the chat room on Facebook, it's always really, really small, and it never tells me who's really watching. I do see Jeremy Hansen is in Facebook chat, and Don Maynard is in Facebook chat. And Mike Fitzpatrick, my God, Facebook allowed me to see an actual 3 real live human beings tonight. I'll get to my kudos. Jeremy Hansen and I were speaking earlier. He noted that, again, he is being throttled by Facebook. And then I recently read a story today or yesterday indicating that Facebook in the past month and a half or so has removed almost 2 million sites. And because of that, Jeremy Hansen and I are wondering, okay, we're kind of still here, but now Facebook is screwing with Jeremy Hansen even more than it's screwing with me, and I think that's because he gets a bigger audience than I do. Although, that then leads me to this, and I must say this before I start the show. Originally, when I began this, it was something to keep me off heroin and out of the streets. I retired in 2016 after being in law enforcement. I met Sean Lewis, who is the co-owner of the SHR Media Studios, and found out that they have a show. He and Sackheads Clint have a show, and that was the Sackheads Radio Show. I joined as a guest in, say, July, August of 2016. And I kind of remoraed off of their show until I got mine in January of 2017. And, wow, that was a strange show, the very first one, because basically I did 2 hours of background on who I am, where I come from. But it kept me off the streets, and I was very appreciative. I created the show, and I don't mean to offend, but I'm guessing that this is how authors feel, or perhaps people that start their own blog, or maybe this is true about all the people that start their own podcasts, or go live, or are on internet radio. I didn't really craft this show with you, the listener, in mind. Perhaps that's a really big negative thing, and I perhaps should apply myself more to that aspect. But what I did is I wanted to start a late-night radio conservative. I call it conservatarian because I'm a bit of a libertarian in there as well. A late-night radio show that wasn't a podcast per se, that was live, that you could listen to live. And I didn't realize at the time that the bulk of the people who would eventually become my guests are from back east. And these folks aren't up, and they don't get to be on the show until like 11 o'clock. And I didn't really think about, oh, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have such a late night radio show, because what the hell? It's only 8 o'clock in the Pacific time when I start. So in any event, two things. Things are going to be changing at SHR. And before I get to that, I want to tell you, after all that is said and done, there are some here who have stuck with me through thick and thin. To the people who are new listeners, God bless you. Thank you very much. To the people who have been listening pretty loyally from almost the very beginning, I thank you too. Now, I know for a fact that there are many people who listen to me that never contact me. Some have, in fact, contacted me back when I used to give out my email address. And then that's when I got a lot of emails with F and S words, because I'm a conservatarian. Conservatarian. Imagine that. So I clutched my chest and moved on. But I never thought about, a couple of things I never thought about. I didn't really go out to solicit ads, because ads are kind of a pain in the ass, and I'm in a financial situation that I don't really have to worry about money at this point right now. So I didn't pack my shows with ads. The second thing is I decided definitely there will not be a paywall to the show. I want people to be able to come and go from here freely anytime they want. If they like the show, you are more than welcome to stay. If you couldn't care less about what I say or it pisses you off, bye-bye. See ya, wouldn't want to be ya. And I don't really want you to stay. And I guess the people in chat, they really wouldn't want to hear from you anyway. Having said that, especially in light of the fact that I made the top 75 late-night talk show podcasts you must follow in 2021, there are a lot of people that listen and watch on Facebook Live and YouTube Live and on Spreaker, listening in audio only, at shrmedia.com. And to each and every one of you, I thank you ever so much for your rapt attention, for being here, for interacting in chat, and just listening to the wacky zaniness that I give off from time to time. Some people like it. Some people don't. Like I say, Sergeant Booker in chat says, hey, it kept you out of the Pine Cove. Well, yes, it did. For those who don't know, the Pine Cove is a local watering hole for cops in downtown Sacramento. Not to say that I was never there, or the Standard Club across the street. That's a story for another time. But the gist of this all, and I've just blown 15 minutes saying this, I never imagined that this show would resonate with anybody. I should have crafted it with that in mind, but I didn't. All I did is start a show that I thought I would want to listen to. And if I thought it might have been remotely entertaining, then maybe a few other people would find it. Until I discovered that I was getting 2,000 people listening. Then I was getting 5,000 people listening. Then I was getting 10,000 people listening. Then I was getting 15,000 people listening. Then Facebook and YouTube pulled my plug. And now, officially, my analytics indicate that I talked to maybe -3 people, but I am getting through to the aliens on Zephron, and they really like the show because they have their morning coffee with it. So thanks to all the people that are listening on Zephron. So the bottom line, thank you for being here. Thank you for pushing the show in whatever fashion you have managed to do up on the pedestal of the top 75 late-night podcasts you have to listen to in 2021. I am honored. I thank you ever so kindly. I don't know who a fraction of you are. I know I get a lot of listeners in podcast. I know I get a lot of listeners on America's highways through American truckers. They used to send me a lot of emails that they would listen literally late at night, and if they missed a show, they'd listen to me in podcast. So, thanks. Let's see. Doug Anderson said Douglas Adams wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where the dolphins say, essentially, and thanks for all the fish. And folks, thank you for all the fish. I really appreciate it. Dingo Dundee is in Facebook chat. So thank you ever so kindly for being here. Tonight it's about the Republicans. If the Republicans don't grow an immediate set of balls and essentially oppose everything that the Democrats propose, we are most definitely on the cusp of losing this nation. But as per normal,
the bloviating Zeppelins, HeyJackass.com Chicago death toll update, courtesy of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
And boy, does this have a lot to do with what's going on now from the shooter in the situation that occurred day before yesterday, yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. I may have my time frames off because I'm off. In any event, hey, I get this information from HeyJackass.com. HeyJackass.com, illustrating Chicago values. March to date, shot and killed 30, shot and wounded. This is relevant to California. We spell it with a K. Shot and wounded 187. Total shot 217. Total homicides 31. Week in progress, March 21st to March 27th. Shot and killed 7. Shot and wounded 22. Total shot 29. Total homicide 7. Year to date, shot and killed 118, shot and wounded 533, total shot 651, total homicides 124. Now, according to the Chicago shot clock, a person in Chicago is wounded every 3 minutes, and a person is murdered every 15 minutes and 15 seconds, so woohoo for that.
Bloviating Zeppelins, HeyJackass.com Chicago death toll update, courtesy of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
And what a grand thing that is. Now remember those stats. Those stats are updated daily. Go to HeyJackass.com. I'm going to ask you to relate those statistics to a story that we're going to be covering in just a moment. I love history, and we'll be getting to this. I love history. What we're doing, though, is ignoring history because, as Santayana, I believe, said, those who ignore history are doomed to repeat it. That would hold true for basically the rest of the world, and even more specifically for the United States of America. This is a cut from G. Edward Griffin from 1969. Times change. Enemies change. We have to adapt. Now, as he's speaking about Russia, I would ask you to substitute the country China for Russia.
1928, the communists declared that the racial differences among our people constituted the weakest.
Oh, Facebook's trying to mess with me. Okay, let's go back. Let's try this again. Okay. Just in case this happened, I put this on 2 locations, on 2 tabs. So let me go to a second tab so that I can play, apparently, a video that social media doesn't want you to hear.
In 1928, the communists declared that the racial differences among our people constituted the weakest and most vulnerable point in our social fabric. By constantly probing and straining at this one spot, they
Sorry, this video could not be played. I didn't do a backup for that, so let me see if I can go out. I just find this so interesting. That a video, here we go. Okay, now let me play this again and see what happened. See what happens. Again, this is G. Edward Griffin from 1969. I'd like you to substitute Russia for China. Go.
Vulnerable point in our social fabric. By constantly probing and straining at this one spot, they calculated that eventually the cloth could be torn apart and that Americans could be divided, weakened, and perhaps even set against each other in open combat. We mustn't kid ourselves into thinking that the communists have placed their agitators only into the black communities. They're working both sides of the street. They want hatred, violence, and bloodshed between the races, and they don't care how they get it or whom they use, even children if necessary. Here is a book that I think ought to be in every home library. It's entitled Color, Communism, and Common Sense by Manning Johnson. He joined the party as a young man because he honestly believed that the communists were trying to improve the conditions of his people. He was a dedicated communist, and eventually he rose to one of the highest ranks. But after many years, he discovered that instead they were merely planning to use his people in a bloody revolution to destroy America. And when he woke up to this, he dropped out of the party and devoted the rest of his life trying to alert his fellow citizens of all races to the true nature of the Communist Party as he knew it to be from the inside. Manning Johnson said, "Black rebellion was what Moscow wanted.
Really?
Bloody racial conflict would split America. During the confusion, demoralization and panic would set in. Then finally the Reds say, workers stop work. Many of them seize arms by attacking arsenals. Street fights become frequent. Under the leadership of the Communist Party, the workers organize revolutionary committees to be in command of the uprising. Armed workers seize the principal government offices, invade the residences of the president and his cabinet members, arrest them, declare the old regime abolished, establish their own power."
Imagine
now, here
that.
is a piece of vicious communist propaganda that perhaps some of you have seen. It's called The Crusader. It's written by Robert F. Williams, one of the organizers of the Revolutionary Action Movement. In this issue of The Crusader, the communists call not only for extensive chaos within the cities, but for putting to the torch every village, every forest, every field, and every barn. The plan is for raging fires from one city to the next. The reason? Well, first, there's the value of sheer destruction.
I remind you, this is 1969. This is so applicable to today and makes you wonder about what has happened regarding fires in California. We spell it with a K.
Secondly, it would force us to deploy our defenses and rescue units over the widest possible area. The communists point out that as long as our police and National Guard remain concentrated, they're invincible. But if they can be forced to spread out over the entire city and into the countryside as well, then they can be picked off from ambush one by one. And the third value of massive fire to the communists is psychological. The average American, they say, soft and decadent, when he sees billows of black smoke rising from one horizon to the other, when at night the only light he has to see by is the flickering red from flames leaping into the sky, he'll become paralyzed with fear and panic. He'll run away and hide and do nothing to interfere with the guerrilla bands as they strike at the community's power centers. The Crusader explains how to set up sniper units in crowded metropolitan areas, how to manufacture jumbo Molotov cocktails, the gallon jug size, and how to mix the gasoline with certain ingredients to make it burn like napalm, how to pour gasoline into utility manholes in the streets to set fire to the main telephone cables, how to put sulfur tips from matches into air conditioning units and blow up large buildings, how to ignite gas mains and oil storage tanks. It explains how radio-controlled model airplanes can be used to fly explosive charges over heavily guarded fences into gasoline storage areas or munition stockpiles.
Like drones today.
It even calls for infiltration into the National Guard units. Revolutionaries posing as non-militants for the purpose of getting free military training and for gaining access to critical military supplies and heavy weapons. And then, finally, Robert Williams says this: any all-out minority revolution must create a state of crisis wherein almost all of the male population would be forced to remain in their homes to protect their property and families. The middle class is very large, but it is not accustomed to deprivation and terror. Because of its affluence, it has waxed soft. It has no stomach for massive fire, blood, and violence. The motive force behind its life drive is its endless pursuit of prestige, conspicuous consumption, and sensual pleasure. A few years of violent, sporadic, and highly destructive uprisings will set the stage for the grand finale. After the stage is properly set through protracted struggle, America could be brought to her knees in 90 days of highly organized, fierce fighting, sabotage, and massive firestorm. Ladies and gentlemen, the plans and preparations for a communist revolution of force and violence are far advanced. The organization behind these preparations has almost unlimited financial resources, and it provides both training and leadership.
Think George Soros.
Based upon years of experience in many other countries. Our enemies are deadly serious about their task, and it's nothing short of national suicide for us to continue to ignore their plans and their progress. The violent revolution becomes of primary value to the communists to the extent to which it can be used to condition the masses psychologically to accept the non-violent revolution, which is offered supposedly as the only alternative. Hoping to avoid further violence and bloodshed, the public is to be pressured into accepting measures that will move the country gradually and legally toward communism, but without calling it that. The strategy of the proletarian revolution calls for the quiet conversion of our government into a communist regime, but under the banner of socialism.
But under the banner of socialism. Oh, do you mean Democrat socialism, as is actively and openly pushed right now by members in D.C.? Yes, exactly that.
Well, what is socialism? All right, let's define it. According to the dictionary, socialism is a political concept based upon the principle of government ownership and control of property, the means of production, and the avenues of commerce. Under socialism, those who run the government, and the communists are confident that in America they eventually will be the ones who do so. Those who run the government will know who is to get something and who has to wait, and that represents control over human beings. What has all this to do with the communist revolution in America? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has everything to do with it, because the building of socialism is the communist revolution in America. It represents the process whereby our country can be moved gradually toward communism without the people even being aware of it. No matter what grievance we may have, real or imagined, no matter what national problems we may face, the communists seize upon these as excuses to build socialism. They have one and only one solution for all problems: more government, and then more and more until it's total government.
More
and
government.
Forgive me for saying it one more time. Total government is communism. As early as
Total government is communism. Imagine that. Now, do you see any links to what's happening today? Oh, he mentioned I should say private property. Hold on to that thought, would you? Private property?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Unleashed Jeremy Hansen, the most explosive pro-American podcast on the planet. Pro-MAGA, pro-Trump, pro-conservative. Come join the resistance. Fight for what really matters in America. 5 p.m. Central on UJHLive.com, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Pandora, or MAGABook.com. Come join the resistance and fight for America. Unleashed Jeremy Hansen.
Do you value yourself, your family, your friends? Want to know more about how to survive, thrive, and stay alive in these dynamic times? Listen to Around the Campfire with Kate, Thursday nights and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, only on PSN TV. That's Around the Campfire with Kate. News that nobody in the MSM wants to report. Remember, train hard, train smart to survive, thrive, and stay alive.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I am BZ, and you're in the Saloon. This is BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Voted number 18 in the top 75 late-night conservative podcasts you got to listen to for 2021. Actually, not even conservative. Top 75 podcasts, late-night podcasts to listen to. So if you would do me a favor, share this on Spreaker. Hit the share button. If you happen to be watching on Facebook, I actively remind you, pretty please hit share on Facebook. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit share on YouTube as well. Subscribe to the SHR Media channel. We heard about that. That was a 1969 statement about communism. True then, true today. We heard about private property. Now, I want to contrast that to this video, which plays music, but the print is up for you to read as you listen to the music. I'll read it for you, because you're going to hear the music. And this is from the World Economic Forum. 8 predictions for the world in 2020. You'll own nothing, and you'll be happy. Whatever you want, you'll rent. It'll be delivered by drone. The U.S. won't be the world's leading superpower. A handful of countries will dominate, just not the U.S. You won't die waiting for an organ donor. We won't transplant organs, we'll print new ones instead. You'll eat much less meat. An occasional treat, not a staple, for the good of the environment and our health. 1 billion people will be displaced by climate change. We'll have to do a better job at welcoming and integrating refugees. Polluters will have to pay to emit carbon dioxide. There will be a global price on carbon. This will help make fossil fuels history. You could be preparing to go to Mars. Scientists will have worked out how to keep you healthy in space. The start of a journey to find alien life? Western values will have been tested to the breaking point. You see what they're saying? Checks and balances that underpin our democracies must not be forgotten. And that's what the World Economic Forum wants for you very soon. Imagine that. Occasionally, I like to play some Paul Harvey, and I haven't played him in quite some time. The theme of the show tonight is, if the Republicans don't grow an immediate set of balls and oppose everything the Democrats are proposing right now, we are going to lose this nation from within. Yes, there's a threat from without, but there is a massive threat from within. Paul Harvey, just like the other gentleman in 1969, Paul Harvey nailed this in 1965.
Were the devil. If I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers, with the wisdom.
Oh, sorry, we're having trouble playing this video. Imagine that. Well, would it shouldn't, darn it. Okay. I won't be able to play that one. It pulled me off completely. I'll get back to Paul Harvey. You know what? Hold that thought. At the next break, at the top of the hour, I will go look for Paul Harvey again. But after Paul Harvey, I have a bit of video that I really didn't think that I'd hear. This is from Rush Limbaugh, who was asking a very serious question that Kurt Schlichter in his novel series about a dystopian American future asked. And now Rush Limbaugh is asking, what's happening? This is 2 minutes and a half of Rush Limbaugh, and then I want to ask you to address that question yourselves. By the way, if you have any answers, the phone line is open. 575-208-4481. If you want to weigh in on what Rush Limbaugh and I are going to talk about right now. 575-208-4481. Here's Rush.
I've alluded to this a couple of times because I've seen others allude to this. I actually think that we're trending toward secession. I see more and more people asking, what in the world do we have in common with the people who live in, say, New York? What is there that makes us believe that there is enough of us there to even have a chance at winning New York, especially if you're talking about votes? I see a lot of bloggers, I can't think of names right now, a lot of bloggers have written extensively about how distant and separated and how much more separated our culture is becoming politically. And that it can't go on this way. There cannot be a peaceful coexistence of two completely different theories of life, theories of government, theories of how we manage our affairs. We can't be in this dire a conflict without something giving somewhere along the way. And so I know that there is a sizable and growing sentiment for people who believe that that is where we're headed, whether we want to or not. Whether we want to go there or not. I myself haven't made up my mind. So I still haven't given up the idea that we are the majority and that all we have to do is find a way to unite and win. And our problem is the fact that there are just so many rhinos, so many Republicans in the Washington establishment who'll do anything to maintain their membership. in the establishment because of the perks and the opportunities that are presented for their kids and so forth.
So, I ask you, is Rush Limbaugh correct? Are we heading towards secession? Now, it's been pushed quite some time in California. Always spell it with a K. The state of Jefferson has been pushed for quite some time. They're still pushing for it. There was a time not long ago when Democrats were thinking about splitting the state into 5 separate states. And what they wanted to do was exactly what the Democrats want to do in D.C. right now, is make it a state. And it's no surprise in that regard that the Democrats want to make D.C. a state. They want the 2 extra senators so that they really get elected in perpetuity. Make D.C. a state, secure those 2 senators, because I don't know if you've seen the stats. 73% of the people in D.C. vote Democrat. 5% vote Republican. So where do you think the future of D.C. lies? If they were really interested in taxation without representation, because that's what they say, we're being taxed with no representation. Well, there are 2 alternatives. Number 1 is give D.C. residents a federal tax break. Or, number 2, hello, Maryland, how would you like to enfold D.C.? Bingo! Now you're part of Maryland. Now you get to speak. Now you get to be represented. But everyone knows that making D.C. a state, that's strictly for the Democrats only. And I can't even think of her name. Her name is immaterial right now. But some chick with bald hair, black chick, got on, fill in the blank. I was looking at CNN. BZ, you watch CNN? Yeah, every once in a while. Who said that not to vote for D.C. statehood makes you a racist because that minimizes black power, black political power. Let's examine that statement just for a moment. I'm going to move on because I did, in fact, as I was listening to that cut, I found Paul Harvey someplace else. I will be playing that. But how stupid do Democrats think you are? Or Presley. Alaskan said Presley. That's it. Ayanna Presley. How stupid do Democrats think you are that you're going to believe that? Conversely, how stupid, and when I name colors on my show, colors don't mean shit to me. My constant axiom has been no one is equal until everyone is equal. And that means no favoring of one race over another one. No one is equal until everyone is equal. And yet, how stupid do you have to be to not be cognizant of the fact that Biden and the Black Caucus, gonna call them black, because that's what they are voting along with Democrats to flood the United States with people from South America, Central America, and Mexico for votes. Republicans want them for jobs, cheap labor. Let's be honest. Ayanna Presley and others that are equally stupid as you, if you think that making D.C. a state is going to keep black Americans in political power, you're a moron. Illegals from South America, Central America, and Mexico are going to roller skate. They're going to steamroller your political ass. Because demography is prophecy. And your 15% population right now, quite honest, that really isn't cat poop. I found Paul Harvey. Here's what he says. Okay, but I should have listened to this. Let's see if this is the one.
If I were the devil.
There we go. That's the one I want.
If I were the devil. If I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions, just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door.
Stop. This was 1965.
Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich.
I repeat, 1965 he saw this.
I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing.
Was Paul Harvey prescient or not? What I want to do and continue with 2021 is hold out hope. We can't give up hope. That's one of the reasons that I continue to spotlight happy stories. At the same time, I caution everybody, and especially the Republicans, if you don't get it together and start pushing back immediately on every front and oppose everything the Democrats do and propose, we're going to lose the nation. But don't give up hope, because certain personnel are actually starting to come around. Well, when I play this gentleman by the name of Bill, is he right? What about the other people with him, or is he just a stopped clock?
Lost $38 million in his divorce, $38 billion in his divorce, and he made it all back in a month. He made $35 billion in 1 month. What does this tell us about America, gentlemen?
This is the dirty secret of the pandemic. which they're about to acknowledge.
Worse than that, we've had one individual add the GDP of Hungary to his net worth since the first virus, and that's Elon Musk, just in time for him to peace out and move to Texas so he doesn't have to pay taxes. We've seen billionaires go from $1.9 trillion in wealth to $4 trillion. The dirty secret of this pandemic is at the top.
What is one of the differences about Elon Musk, however? He's still in the United States.
Top 10%, much less the top 1%, are living their best lives. A virus
and that some people, I mean, we see a lot of we actually see places that went out of business, like some of my favorite restaurants. Right. I drive by and I want to cry because they've been there for Ago's gone. It was there forever. But the people who did, if you're in the sit on your ass, look at a screen business, yes, Amazon, Apple,
Bingo.
Google, Facebook, right? They're now worth 21% of the whole economy.
Because of the pandemic.
We talk about the S&P 500. It's the S&P 7. There's now 7 companies that have 51% of the market cap. Amazon, since March, has added more market capitalization than all of European retail. We have effectively 4 companies that are so dominant. There's more. We've been overrun. There's more lobbyists, full-time lobbyists in Washington working for Amazon than there are U.S. senators. There's more people working in...
Listen to that. I'll play that again. Listen to what he's saying. This is insane.
So dominant. There's more. We've been overrun. There's more lobbyists, full-time lobbyists in Washington working for Amazon than there are U.S. senators. There's more people working in PR and comms at Facebook, manicuring and Mark and Cheryl's image than there are journalists at the Washington Post. Yeah. We are so beyond any sense of balance in our economy. The ecosystem's out of control. We absolutely need to break these companies up.
Yeah, it's almost like we're profit. There you go. Don't want to step on that, Bill.
Okay, that begs a big question. Huge question. Are they right? Do we break up these companies? How can we do it? Is it a trust issue? Do we need trust busters? Not ghostbusters, trust busters. Is this a place we need to go? Or should we at this point be saying something like, danger, Will Robinson, danger, danger.
I'm old school, Bill. I'm not stepping on a plane.
No.
It's almost like the way that you said that, Bill, it sounded nefarious, almost like they planned it or something, you know. Not that they did, of course, but
they took advantage of it.
But they took advantage of it. There's almost like an inevitability of this kind of progress, let's call it, you know, where how all that money just starts flowing in these same directions, you know, no matter what happens to the economy.
That's where Keep America First is important. As I said, Republicans, take this to heart. If you ever expect to be voted for again, you have to grow an immediate set of balls. There must be some pushback somewhere. Now, you're not going to hear some clear voices on this. But let me give you the gist of this next video. It's 2 minutes of this, and if it's as kind of murky here as it was when I first listened to it, I'll change to another topic because I've only got 5 more minutes before the top of the hour break. This is on an airplane. Some parents were told to leave this airplane by airline personnel, stewards, because their child didn't wear a mask. So what happened? Oh, by the way, this was in Israel. So what happened? Well, the parents walked out, and so did all the rest of the passengers.
Take your belongings and get out! Get out!
And they're all standing up.
Take your belongings and get out!
And they're reaching into the overheads. And they're reaching below their seats. And getting more luggage.
Don't see. Stand up for other people. Stand up. I'm going to stand up for you. I'm going to stand. Say to Frankie, I'm not going to take your character. Stand up. Stand up for other people.
While we were gassed.
There were only Jewish people sitting in the back 2 rows. Stand up.
Now, they're all standing up.
Everyone is going down.
And almost all the overheads are open. This is what we need in America. We need to push back and just not take it anymore. I think I'm going to start the break a little earlier. Well, actually, I'm not. I've got about 2.5 minutes to go. When we come back, I'm going to talk about the gunman in Boulder, Colorado. And I'm going to tell you the things that no one wants you to know about the gunman and the situation. What I'll do for the remaining few minutes is tell you this. SHR Media is going to change. The original creators of the SHR Media Network, Sackhead Sean and Sackheads Clint, are basically gone. Sackheads Sean is going to be leaving for another state shortly. Sackheads Clint is very, very busy with his job and will not be able to return. So essentially it was either me keeping up the SHR Media Network or it was just going to die. It's as simple as that. Also, late last year, in December, we discovered that we're going to be kicked out of this studio. The home in which the studio is located, and if you've seen the photographs, this really is a studio. I'll be putting together a bunch of photographs to show you, or maybe one big post at shrmedia.com. But it really is a studio with a bathroom and a little kitchen and a couple of other rooms. Very nice. $100 a month. You can't believe. We'll never find that again. Not in 2021 at all. So SHR Media had one chance at survival, and that was to go someplace else. Well, the other aspect of this is myself and my wife want to be leaving this state. We are done with California, always spelled with a K. But the only place to go is not my cabin because I've got to sell my cabin up at the 4,000-foot level in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Can't put it up there. That's 91 miles away from Sacramento, which is where the studio is right now. And my wife lives in Sacramento. She was gracious enough to let me use her living room to replace the studio. So in the next month or so, once arrangements have been made and some moving of some things around, and with the assistance of Sackhead Sean, the studio is going to be moving to my wife's residence. I am keeping SHR. It will still be here. It will be in a form and a nature that you are used to. There will be no paywall. And that's the way it's going to be. I am keeping SHR. Now, there may be some other alliances coming in the future. I can't really say anything about that. But I can say something about this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It is he that is me, bringing perspective from across the sea. Join me, Jack Alexander, 4 days a week for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the news and issues affecting life and liberty here in the USA. I'll show you what the mainstream media refuses to. Politics, border security, defense, healthcare, travel, nothing is off limits. Catch the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast each Monday to Thursday on Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere good podcasts can be found. Also, check out the website, www.jackalexanderexperiment.com.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette.
I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the Unpleasant Blind Guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for airtimes. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On EDL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. I'm back. I am BZ. You're in the Saloon, BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here in the sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent SHR Media studios surrounding me right now. We're broadcasting 2 miles east of the locus of evil, the Capitol building in downtown Sacramento, California. Spell it with a K. And I'm going to continue. Now, we had a shooting in Boulder, Colorado not long ago, and would it surprise you to know that you're not receiving all of the information? Would it surprise you to know that frequently I end up going to other media sources that are not in the United States to find out more information about what's actually happening in the United States of America? So I went to the UK Daily Mail. This is the headline. Revealed. Syrian-born gunman Ahmad Alisa, 21, was known to the FBI, and he ranted about Islamophobes hacking his phone before he killed 10 at a Boulder grocery store with an assault rifle he bought 1 week ago. Now stop right there. What you're not hearing about this, and what was not even mentioned by the UK Daily Mail, is this. Colorado already has everything that leftists want except the complete and total elimination of firearms. They have universal background checks in Colorado. They have red flag gun seizure laws. They have high-capacity magazine bans. And from Gifford's Courage, the anti-gun group, Colorado got a passing gun control grade from Gifford's Courage. Here's what the American media maggots conspicuously are not telling you. If they're telling you that he got the assault rifle, he bought it 1 week ago, that likely means he physically took possession of it 1 week ago, because with all these pieces and elements in place, then he had to fill out a form, a federal form, and they likely did a background check on him, and they likely didn't release it to him immediately that day. No one is telling you that's how this works. In Colorado, they do have universal background checks. They have red flag gun seizure bans. They have high cap magazine limitations and magazine bans. And they got a passing, Colorado, the entire state, got a passing score from Gifford's Courage. And yet, this guy opened fire at the King Soopers grocery store at about 2:40 p.m. He killed 2 people in the parking lot before he entered the store, where he killed another 8 people. People who were there said that he was very deliberate. It was not a machine gun, by the way. It was a Ruger 5.56, which is an AR-15 looking weapon. It is chambered for 5.56, but probably will also take .223. That's not a huge gun. That's not a .308. That's not a .458 Weatherby. But he was very deliberate, shot one round at a time with everyone that is there. It was not, let me repeat, it was not an automatic weapon. However, this is where the rubber starts to meet the road. They say his motive is not still known, air quotes. When he surrendered to police, he asked to speak to his mommy. However, in Facebook posts, when his Facebook posts were still up, his Facebook posts are down now, but I have a screen capture of what he wrote because you knew that crap was going to disappear. He complained that he didn't have a girlfriend and that he hated Trump. He called Trump a dick. Well, wait. He is Muslim. He was born in Syria. He got moved to the United States of America. The American media maggots, CNN, MSNBC, blah, blah, all said he was a white guy. All the leftists, once they heard about this guy, go and look on their social media. They were all saying, again, it's another white guy that goes on a killing spree. You won't see a killing spree unless it's a white guy. Statistically, that's not the truth. That's not the case. He wasn't a Trump supporter. Oh, would they have loved it? See, it throws a pile of dog shit into their narrative. Boy, he's a white guy. Well, yeah, I guess you could call him white. He's from the Middle East. He's from Syria. He's a Muslim. Well, Ahmad Alisa, that's kind of a clue. His brother told another entity that he was very antisocial and had been paranoid since high school. His brother described him as mentally ill, said he'd been bullied in high school, and that it was not politically motivated bullying. His sister-in-law said she'd seen him playing with a gun recently, but didn't suspect him of violence. The victims in the shooting ranged from 20 to 65. One of them was a cop from the Boulder Police Department, and shoppers and people who were getting their vaccines. President Biden on Tuesday, of course, what is the first thing that leftists and Democrats do when something like this happens? We must have gun control. So he's responsible for that shooting on Monday. The FBI knew about him. And he also, in his social media, he ranted online about racist Islamophobes hacking his phone. He was also a high school wrestler. If you look at these, there's one picture of him with a bunch of medals from the Grapplers Association of North America or something like that. So he was a wrestler. He lived in Arvada, Colorado, about 30 miles from the grocery store. He had a leg wound. If you watched him, it looked like he was bleeding from that leg wound when he was in custody. In his Facebook posts over the last 18 months, what he was doing is complaining about not having a girlfriend. He ranted about President Trump. And he talked about his Islamic faith. Oh, yeah, that's right. He's a Muslim. But we can't talk about that. And the fact that, by the way, as I indicated, Colorado has everything the left asked for. Universal background checks, red flag gun seizure laws, high cap magazine bans, and a passing gun control grade from Giffords Courage. And it still didn't stop a piece of crap like this guy. What have I said historically for quite some time? The firearm is a tool. The tool never changes. So it's used by society. So I throw this out because I'm sorry if it offends you. So much for facts offending you. If they do, go to hell. In the past 60 years, what has changed? The tool or society? You know the answer to that one. But to even say something similar to, well, we have to get rid of guns. That's all there is to it. We can't have guns around. Well, it's funny. When bad guys shoot cops, it's the gun. When cops shoot bad guys, it's the cop that's responsible for that. Imagine that. Here's what occurred back during Katrina. And I had to look long and hard to find this. Because I am of two minds about what's happening. Okay, let me stop right there. Let me give you my hypothesis about what's coming. Because, like Islam, occasionally the Democrats play long ball. Not nearly as much as Islam, obviously. But occasionally the Democrats play long ball. Leftists do, that's for certain. Here's what I'm thinking. Make sure that we remove your ability to defend yourself in the United States of America. The Second Amendment obviously can go to hell. After that, then we're going to defund the police. After we defund the police, and that removes the incentive to be a police officer, and you're primarily left defenseless, I submit that this is a move to create a national, federalized, singular police department all across the nation. Because the goal is ultimately, in this regard, about control. Because right now, at least in California, when various leftists indicated that people are going to get arrested, well, some sheriffs up and down California and various other states told people in counties and cities to pound sand. They weren't going to be the mask police or the COVID police, and that pissed off leftists. That crap can't go on anymore. If you create a nationalized police force, does the color brown sound familiar to you right about now? Then D.C. has complete control over what they will accept and what they will do. Because if you want to be employed as a police officer, there's one department to go to, and if you don't like what they're doing, there's no plan B. That's it. So you either do what they tell you to do if you want to get paid and stay employed, or you leave and you go do something else. That, I believe, is the ultimate goal. A singular, federalized police department. All for the nation. Now, I'm going to play, looks like I've got a caller on. Tell you what, I'll hang this. No, I'm going to tell you about the video, and I'll play it in a second after I talk to the caller here. I am old enough to remember, and I secured the audio and the video from this. I'm old enough to remember that right after Hurricane Katrina, police and National Guard in New Orleans went house to house confiscating guns, all based on the executive order of the mayor. I'm telling you this to remind you, to those naysayers, that no, that has never happened and will never happen again. Oh, really? Okay, who do I have on the line? Go ahead, mystery caller.
Hey, this is the mystery man from way up north.
Ah, the Alaskan.
1 hour behind you.
Otherwise called the Alaskan because he lives in Alaska. An excellent choice of name, by the way.
It was a secret name.
I know. It's better than the Philadelphian.
Everybody know where I was at.
Because if you were the Philadelphian living in Alaska, that wouldn't play well in Poughkeepsie. What can I do for you tonight, sir?
No.
Would you like a latte?
I was going to let you know that I found a video. It was last night of the Boulder incident.
Oh, really?
It was done by a streamer who had just happened to come out the store and was putting his groceries in the car when the shooting started.
Okay, is that the guy that streamed live on Facebook?
Yes.
Okay, I watched his video.
I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if you saw it, but
I looked at
put
it,
that
yes.
in the chat room. It's a 3-hour video.
Oh, no, I didn't see the 3-hour video. Oh, no.
Well, he was streaming live, but this is the video of his stream that he had.
Okay.
There were a number out there, but he had something like, if I remember correctly, hearing what he said, he saw up to 30,000 people watching.
I'm looking at it. It has 697,000 views.
Yeah. But at the time that he was streaming live, it was about 32,000 people watching. But he was there when the shooting started, grabbed his gear, and took off running and ran around the corner to the door, where unfortunately he got on film 3 of the 10 that were killed.
Yeah, he went inside the store and then started hearing gunshots.
Well, he didn't go completely inside.
Well, he was past the
Not
door.
after he saw
He didn't go deep. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, well, at least his hammer shot was inside. I did not see that he actually went in, but he went in the outer doors, not the inner doors, after he saw the one person laying down right there by the door. But came out, ran around the building looking for any more people and stuff, and then came back out and was there for the whole incident. He was, you go into right around, somewhere around an hour into the video or 45 minutes into the video, he was probably only, he was within 10 feet, 15 feet of the shooter when they brought him out. And got some good shots of him. And then hung out and, watched the whole scene go down. And I swear, BZ, there was probably 14 or 15 SWAT teams there, and probably 200 cops.
Well,
on scene at that point.
I wouldn't doubt that at all. When I took active shooter training, and the training was this, which is why everybody in copdom in law enforcement was absolutely disgusted about what happened with the Broward County sheriffs that were at Parkland in Florida. Yeah. The axiom is the longer you wait, the worse it gets, and the more people die. So we are taught and we are trained to go in, and sometimes if you have to go in by yourself, that's your own personal decision. And apparently this one officer, although I do not have all of the information on this officer and the circumstances, but it's not entirely impossible that one particular officer who was killed, who has 7 kids and a wife, made the personal decision himself that he was going to go in and attempt to halt the situation. But we're taught to go in. Time wasted is lives lost. And again, which is why to look at the two individuals that were involved from Broward County and Parkland, it was enough to make me sick. Let me play a video for you, since you happen to be on the air.
Okay.
This is the one that I was going to play for everybody, and then I'd like your opinion. If I'm not mistaken, didn't you do some military time?
Yeah, limited time. Yes,
Okay. Alrighty. I want to play this to you. This is in a nation where people were saying, nah, we don't confiscate guns. Really?
Today in New Orleans, they got a lot tougher on the holdouts.
Police department, anyone home?
Not only the flooded areas, but New Orleans' driest and wealthiest neighborhoods, too.
Police department!
The police and National Guard going street by street, house to house.
We need to make sure, too, that whenever we knock on doors, people refuse to leave. We need to make note, call it in.
They say there are no orders to use force, just strong persuasion, sometimes entering open houses with guns drawn, and instructions to disarm anyone inside.
Oh, and by the way, yes, they are using long guns when they're doing this.
You said guns will be taken. No one will be able to be armed. We will take all weapons.
That happened today in this wealthy neighborhood where homeowners had armed themselves to protect their mansions.
And here's a couple of people sitting in cuffs on their steps.
Residents were handcuffed on the ground. In the end, police took their weapons but let them stay in their homes.
They were a little bit threatened because our weapons were bigger than their weapons.
For many of the police and guard troops, it is an uncomfortable job to do this in an American city. This guard unit occupied a church, using it as a base camp. They had to leave a note because they could not get hold of the pastor to get permission.
It is surreal. Yeah, you never expect to do this in your own country.
Chris Montgomery says he'd rather be in Iraq than patrolling American neighborhoods.
Walking up and down these streets, you don't want to think about the stuff that you're going to have to do if somebody pops around the corner.
Let me shoot in America.
Yeah.
When somebody pops around the corner and you shoot an American. By the way, did I say, and I'll remind you folks, this was all predicated upon an executive order from the mayor of New Orleans. The mayor of New Orleans. So to all of these individuals who look mostly like they are National Guard to me, doing this on an executive order from the mayor of New Orleans, if you do this in 2021 illegally, and it isn't an emergency like Katrina, although the leftists and Democrats would love to make it an emergency, my suggestion is don't. Americans are not happy right now for a number of reasons. So my suggestion to law enforcement and to the Guard, if you're given an order, number one, remember your oaths that you took, your constitutional oaths. Examine your position and decide whether or not you're going to obey what, in my estimation, because I said at the beginning of the show, these are my opinions, but I took an oath that never ends to obey the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I implore law enforcement and the National Guard, because it's looking as though push is going to come to shove regarding this matter. Be careful. Be very, very careful. Boyd, any final words on that?
Well, when I was in the service, I would not have done that. I don't think my officers or NCOs would allow us to do that, because up here, you didn't screw with anybody else up here.
Now, Alaska is different than the lower 48. Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
Yeah.
But these are different times. When were you in the military? In what decade? 90s? 80s?
Sorry to tell you, but it was in the 70s.
Okay, that's
you and
okay.
I are very close to the very, very same age.
Okay, that's cool. That's okay. I was a cop in the 70s. Started in 74. No big deal. But times have changed. These are different individuals in law enforcement and different individuals in the military. The gene pools have changed markedly between then and now.
Yeah, well, I would say that if they tried to do that, the police officers would need every last stitch of body armor they have. People aren't going to put up with it.
I'm just suggesting this in a word. Don't. Now in chat, Sergeant Booker said Americans are not happy right now. And there's this. 10 million of them became new gun owners. Who are the finest salespeople in terms of firearms in the history of the United States of America? I'll ask you this before we go to a break. Would it be Colt? Would it be Smith & Wesson? Would it be Remington? Would it be Sturm Ruger? Who's the best salespeople in the United States in terms of firearms? Who would you say? Sir Alaskan.
Well, I would have to say right now that Obama was, and maybe still is number one, but he's going to lose that very rapidly with his vice president.
And guess what?
His vice president is going to be the best salesman.
That's absolutely correct. Historically, one of the finest, most recent gun salespeople has been Barack Hussein Obama, followed very, very closely by Joe Biden. Thank you, sir. I'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick you bellows as host, and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we are back. It's the final 27, actually the final 29. Final 29 minutes of the Saloon. Thanks for being here tonight. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to have a great guest next Thursday night. And I would invite one and all to be there. She's the CEO and creator of Dream Makers, and they kind of make dreams happen for young children that are impacted by illnesses, diseases, etc., that kind of thing. Thanks to everybody who was here. Thanks to everybody listening and partaking of chat on Facebook and also in the chat room at shrmedia.com. And if you happen to be in the chat room at YouTube, I'm sorry, I don't have enough phones and equipment screens to monitor all that stuff. I wanted to tell you about this story. This story is a little older, but it's exactly what the Biden administration wants. Now, Australia lost its guns in 1996. The Australian government confiscated guns in 1996. Gun crime went up. Same thing for New Zealand. Gun crime went up. It doesn't take a 5-year-old could see the outcome. Biden, however, this is from Americans for Tax Reform, Biden to impose $200 gun tax. And this is what is coming. Well, number one, like 1994, he just wants to outlaw all assault rifles. So if he doesn't get you that way, he's going to get you another. Joe Biden would force semi-automatic rifle owners to either participate in a gun buyback program. Buyback. That's confiscation. They can't buy back what the federal government didn't purchase. That's your property. You own it. It's not a buyback. It's confiscation. Illegal confiscation. In a gun buyback program, or register their firearms under the National Firearms Act, which requires the payment of a $200 tax. This would extend to AR-15s and other common household rifles. They have not delineated those yet. People who didn't comply would face up to 10 years in federal prison and a potential $10,000 fine. This is yet, of course, another violation of Joe Biden's pledge against any tax increase on anybody making less than $400,000 a year. Now it's $200,000 a year individually. So as detailed in Biden's campaign website, he's going to institute a program to buy back, confiscate weapons of war currently on our streets. This will give individuals who now possess assault weapons or high-capacity magazines two options. Sell the weapons to the government or register them under the National Firearms Act. This then triggers the $200 tax. Now, what you'd also have to do is you'd have to tell them where in your house they are stored, how they are stored, how many, so that if the government comes to finally confiscate all firearms, isn't that convenient how they'll know exactly where to go? Imagine that. You'll have to send in a 13-page complicated application form with the $200 tax included, a set of your fingerprints, and a photograph of yourself. In this way, the hurdles to legally own your weapon or high-capacity magazine go far beyond the expensive tax. Now, given that there are about 18 million, and I think that's low, I'd guess at least maybe 20 million, roughly AR-15s or AR-15 variants privately owned in the U.S., gun owners would potentially be forced to pay a collective $3.6 to $4 billion in taxes. Now, that figure doesn't even include other weapons the left considers assault weapons, and the additional magazines that a whole bunch of gun owners would have to register or just give up. You don't want to pay the tax? Oh, it's a choice. This is America. You don't have to pay the tax. You can just give me all your damn guns. Well, that's a choice, isn't it? Many families who have already been struggling due to the economic damage done by the coronavirus would find themselves incapable of paying for the ability to practice a constitutional right. And according to the Biden campaign, any magazine that holds more than 10 rounds is a high-cap magazine. Okay, so even if someone owns only one AR-15, and if they have just 4 standard capacity magazines, they'd owe the federal government $1,000 in taxes. So all of a sudden, isn't this amazing? Gun control becomes less about just firearms ownership and confiscation, and more about controlling working-class Americans. In urban areas where people are most vulnerable to crime, it's not hard to imagine how crushing this is going to be. Stop. I've said this before, but I haven't really emphasized it, and possibly I should. Gun control is racist. Gun control is racist. Everyone has a right to purchase firearms. Everyone has a right to have firearms. Everyone has a right to magazines and ammunition in those firearms. So, again, look at the... If there were no such thing as leftist and Democrat hyper-hypocrisy, there wouldn't be any hypocrisy at all. Governor Newsom spending $12,000 on alcohol at a dinner at the French Laundry, one of the most expensive restaurants in the entire state of California, always spell it with a K, along with he and every politician having a personal bodyguard contingent with them all the time that they're out in public and sometimes inside various residences. They need protection. Oh, you won't be able to remove their protection or the people that carry firearms to protect them, because don't you understand? They're infinitely more important than you will ever be. So they'll keep their guns. Oh, and if they personally own guns, you don't think they're going to turn those in, do ya? Personally owned firearms? No, not going to happen. So everything is about sex and race and removing your rights. And so a hate crime occurred recently during spring break in Florida. And the issue, if you've noticed, isn't about the coronavirus in Florida. It's about who happens to be rioting in Florida, which is why they've placed a curfew there. But isn't it odd that this isn't a hate crime? 2 spring breakers drugged, raped a woman, then partied, cops say. She died in a South Beach hotel. The arrests come as Miami Beach police and city officials have been grappling with the overwhelming spring break crowds. Yeah, they have. The spring break crowds have been huge and massively violent. 2 North Carolina men visiting South Beach have been arrested and accused of drugging and raping a woman who later died in her hotel room. Okay, that's paragraph 1. The men, Yvois Collier, 21, and Dorian Taylor, 24, are also accused of stealing the woman's credit cards to spend money on their trip in South Beach. Investigators are trying to determine whether the woman died of an overdose, possibly from a pill the men supplied. The Miami-Dade medical examiner's office said Monday it's conducting further tests and no cause of death has been determined. That's paragraph 2. I'm mentioning that for a reason. The arrests come as Miami Beach police and city officials have been grappling with the overwhelming spring break crowds, instituting an 8 p.m. curfew aimed at cracking down on rowdy revelers on the streets. In recent weeks, South Beach has seen brawls, crowd stampedes, and police confrontations involving the use of pepper balls. Well, let's see. That's 1, 2, 3. Paragraph 3. Paragraph 4. Miami Beach police have made over 1,000 arrests since February, and at least 5 officers have been hurt on the job, according to the department. Interim city manager Raul Aguila on Saturday called for the curfew to contain the overwhelming crowd of visitors and the potential for violence, disruption, and damage to property during what has been at times a chaotic spring break period. That's paragraph 4. The charges Collier and Taylor face are far more serious: burglary with battery, sexual battery, petty theft, and the fraudulent use of a credit card. If the drug they gave her is proven to have played a role in her death, the men could potentially face a manslaughter or a murder charge, which apparently they now are. The victim, a 24-year-old woman visiting from Pennsylvania, was staying at the Albion Hotel. Paragraph 5 and paragraph 6. Both men, who hail from Greensboro, North Carolina, were booked into a Miami-Dade jail on Sunday, records show. Paragraph 7. Paragraph 8. On Monday afternoon, prosecutor Ayanna Duncan said the men should be held in jail before trial before they could face even more serious charges, depending on the results of the death investigation. Paragraph 8. Miami-Dade Circuit Judge Mindy Glazer agreed and also expressed alarm about the accusations. He couldn't even pick up the phone to call police or 911 after they did what it is that they did to her, Glazer said. Paragraph 9. A Miami-Dade assistant public defender during Monday's hearing did not address details of the allegations. Collier and Taylor will face an arraignment in about 3 weeks. That's paragraph 9. There's paragraph 10. There's paragraph 11 about finding a semi-nude body. Surveillance video, that's paragraph 11. Collier fit the description of one of the men, paragraph 12. Paragraph 13, he confessed to the police that he and Taylor met the woman. That's paragraph 13. Paragraph 14, Percocet was involved. Paragraph 15, we sent it to the lab. 16, paragraph 17, paragraph 18, they had sex with a woman. Paragraph 19, the fact that the victim was under the influence of alcohol and narcotics, she could not have consented to sex with the defendants. Paragraph, there is not 20 paragraphs, 20-plus paragraphs in this story, and they buried the lead. The lead was completely buried. Not once was it mentioned that the two assailants are black. Not once did they mention the woman killed was white. This is a hate crime. Stop. What do you think? Oh, welcome, Jack, in chat. What do you think? Do BZ's reversal theorem. What if these two men had been white? What if the woman had been black? Do you think a hate crime would not have been in the headline itself and every other subsequent paragraph thereof? Oh, hell yeah. But, of no concert now, of no material. It's not material. And so that's what we're left with right now. I got 15 minutes left. Oh, I can do this now. Oh, and my computer's locking up. Okay, now I can do this. Because it is definitely...
It's time for happy stories and good times.
Senator Scott says woke supremacy is just as dangerous as white supremacy. And now you know why I followed up that story with this story. Senator Tim Scott, Republican from South Carolina, has denounced the current left-wing attack on black conservatives and a focus on being woke, saying the concept is harmful and as detrimental as white supremacy. Imagine that. Then there's another story. This is from lifenews.com. Judge rules Texas can defund Planned Parenthood abortion business. I'd say that's a happy story. A state judge has ruled Texas can defund the Planned Parenthood abortion business. Siding with state officials, a judge in Travis County declined Planned Parenthood's bid to block state officials from removing the abortion company from the state Medicaid program. Because why should you fund it? Let them fund themselves. This is really a happy story. I loved this one when I heard it. This is from Breitbart. Major U.S. sports leagues Major U.S. sports leagues lost over $14 billion in 2020. Why? Because they were so woke. They were part of what I call the WCM, which is the woke child mob. Pro sports lost an incredible amount of money last year, with each league losing revenue in every area from fan support to sponsorship. Now, according to Forbes, to date, the pro sports leagues lost a combined $14.1 billion since the world ground to a halt about a year ago. But not only did the league lose, all the leagues lose billions of dollars in revenue, the teams themselves also lost a percentage of what they're worth. Even the value of sports teams, one of the most reliable long-term investments for billionaires, began to creak from the strain. The NHL franchise values fell 2% on average, according to a Forbes analysis published in December, the first drop in 2 decades. NBA values rose just 4% on average, the smallest increase since 2010. The players themselves also sadly, oh, so sad, the players also took a hit to their wallets. Forbes noted the total earnings for the nation's highest paid athletes fell for the first time since 2016. And it also found that some of the top earners lost millions of dollars over what they earned in 2019. Of course, one of the biggest losses that pro sports suffered in 2020 was the loss of ticket revenue, because games were canceled and stadiums either banned fans or they were opened at reduced capacities. That, I think, to me, that was one of the happiest stories. Here's another one. I'll mention this just briefly. This seems to be a trend. So just when I tell you about stories that are kind of negative, the whole point is don't give up hope. Arkansas becomes the 35th stand your ground state. I'd say that's a happy thing. And then as if you couldn't see this happening, Department of Corrections employees report men are claiming to be women to transfer to prisons. Imagine that. A half dozen men have been transferred to the Washington Correctional Center for women, according to an employee at the facility. The employees tell that KIRO Radio's Don Monson show the women's facility in Pierce County in the state of Washington has adopted the practice of allowing a transfer for any person who identifies as female. This is beautiful. This is gorgeous. Those transfers are being housed in the general population with female cellmates. Kind of reminds me of Dr. Seuss. Oh, the things you'll see and the places you'll go. This is also glorious. I got time for this story and maybe one or two more. This just recently came out. Jonathan Turley wrote about this, and it was covered on a whole bunch. Well, it wasn't covered by the American Media Magazine, of course. Smith College, a massively leftist college. Smith College and its president, Kathleen McCartney, is under fire for its treatment of employees after a student, Aumu Kanote, accused the school of racism in an incident with a security officer and a lunch worker. The incident was disproven, but McCartney, President McCartney of Smith College, and the college, as well as the media, treated the allegation as manifestly true, resulting in destruction of the reputations of a number of employees who were either labeled as racists or examples of course, white privilege. Now, to this day, McCartney, the president of Smith, remains unapologetic for her failure to guarantee due process and fairness for these employees. Stop. That's why I say, if supporting the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the rule of law and due process makes me a white supremacist, terrorist extremist, fuck it. So be it. I guess I am. To this day, McCartney remains unapologetic for her failure for the employees who were branded as racists, even after an investigation of the incident in a recent New York Times piece. Smith has long been a symbol of the elite. Of course. Tuitions there are costing $75,000. It's also an institution known for its liberal policies. The school was thrown into a frenzy in 2018 when Miss Kenote tweeted out that she was the victim of a racist encounter with a campus security officer. All I did was be black. It's outrageous that some people questioned my being at Smith College and my existence overall as a woman of color. ABC's Good Morning America ran an account that notably did not seriously question the underlying facts, because why would they? So what she stated there was, I see a cop walk in with a Smith employee who I have never seen before, and the man asked me, we were wondering why you're here. It just still upsets me to talk about it because I don't even feel safe on my own campus, and I'm away from home. I'm the first in my family to go to college. Did anybody address or ask the question of, well, was she there when the cafeteria was closed? Was she there after hours? Was she there when no one was supposed to be eating? None of those questions posed or answered. Imagine that. Various media outlets also ran stories about the shocking and abusive encounter with the security officer who allegedly confronted Ms. Conaway without any justification. So approaching somebody without justification is sexist, racist. In reality, Kenote was in a house that was closed to students. Only children attending a summer camp were allowed to use the building's cafeteria. I had to go looking long and hard for that because most of the stories that you're going to read on the internet fail to mention that the house where she was found was closed. Burying the lead. Oh, here's another. I might have time to do two more stories. This is from the Federalist. This is a happy story. Project Veritas wins early round in defamation lawsuit against the New York Times. A New York judge slammed the New York Times for blurring the lines between news and opinion. The paper had attempted to get a defamation lawsuit against it, dismissed on the ground that, among other things, its reporters were just expressing their personal opinions when they disparaged the investigative journalists at Project Veritas. The judge ruled the lawsuit can go forward, finding that Project Veritas showed sufficient evidence that the New York Times may have been motivated by actual malice and acted with reckless disregard when it ran several articles against the investigative journalism outfit. They wrote, if a writer interjects an opinion in a news article and will seek to claim legal protections as opinion, it stands to reason the writer should have an obligation to alert the reader, including a court, that may need to determine whether it is a factor of opinion that it is in fact opinion, said Judge Charles Wood of the New York State Supreme Court in his March 18, 2021 ruling. The lawsuit stems from the New York Times coverage of an explosive video released in September purporting to show illegal voting practices within the Somali American community in Representative Ilhan Omar's congressional district in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Imagine that. This is definitely this department.
Tales from the You Can't Write This Shit department. Graciously presented by BZ. Here in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
You can't write this. This is from the New York Post. New York City school encourages kids to stop using words like mom, dad in an inclusive language guide. A Manhattan private school aiming to use more inclusive language is encouraging its students to stop using the words mom and dad and parents because the words make assumptions about kids' home lives. The Grace Church School in NoHo which offers academic courses for junior kindergarten through 12th grade, issued a 12-page guide to students and staff explaining the school's mission of inclusivity. The detailed guide recommends using the terms grown-ups, folks, family, or guardians as alternatives to mom or dad or parents. It also suggests using caregiver instead of nanny or babysitter. They wrote, families are formed and structured in many ways. At Grace Church School, we use inclusive language that reflects this diversity. It's important to refrain from making assumptions about who kids live with, who cares for them, whether they sleep in the same place every night, where they see their parents, etc., the guide reads. The document also states how to use appropriate terms relating to gender, sexual orientation, race, and ethnicity. Leftists know nothing, except race and sex and gender and race. That's all they see. That's all they can see. Oh, instead of asking a person, what are you? Where are you from? The query should be, what is your cultural ethnic background? Where are your ancestors? Is your family from? According to Grace's guide. And yeah, you can't make this shit up. Not at all. I'll be here back next Thursday night. But I'm telling you, and I'm telling you to tell all your Republican friends, if they're still on your greeting card list, if the Republicans don't grow an immediate set of balls and oppose everything the Democrats propose, because leftists and Democrats destroy everything they touch, we're going to lose this nation.
Monsieur!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you'll find me on Twitter. I'm really active on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP. And also on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and by Shure and Electro Voice microphones, Arrakis boards as well. Tiaras are by My Little Pony. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour. You can take that to the bank. Thanks to everybody who is listening live. Thanks to everybody who is here in the SHR Media chat room. Thanks to those in the SHR Media Facebook chat room and the SHR Media YouTube channel. Thanks to people who listen in podcast. Thanks to everybody who made me number 18 in the top 75 best late night podcasts you want to watch and listen to in 2021. God bless, take care, be safe. See you Thursday.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.